First, on BBC One, we discover the ways in which the broadcasting organisations in Sweden and Denmark cater for deaf people in See Here.
Hello, my name is Linda Day. I'll be presenting today's European programme, which will become a regular feature during this series. This week we're travelling even further afield than usual, with a trip across the Atlantic to look at the American deaf programme Silent Network. And we'll be visiting Sweden, Germany and Denmark. So in half an hour, I'll give you a world tour of television for deaf people. I'm going to start in Germany with the 7th European Deaf Tennis Championship. It took place in Karlsruhe, Germany, in June. Our friends from German television's Sehen statt Hören were there. Although Britain didn't win any individual gold medals, they did come top of the medals table, winning the Deur Lacquer Cup. So well done to the British Deaf Sports Council tennis squad. Don't forget, next year it's the World Games for the Deaf in Sofia, Bulgaria. And now to Sweden. There's no denying the popularity of children's programmes all over the world. Deaf children, though, often miss out. At the moment, there are no programmes for deaf children in Britain. Channel 4's Dart has recently finished and there are no plans for its return. The Swedish youngsters have much more choice. They've got programmes for and presented by young deaf children. Here, from our colleagues at Swedish Educational Broadcast, is a visit to the zoo.
Tigerungen är bara 2 månader gammal. Han vet ännu inte hur man försvarar sig och blir arg. Det uppfostras han till så småningom. Visst är tigrar vackra. Den lilla ungen har inte lärt sig så mycket ännu. Nu var han rädd. Men när han har blivit stor, då kan han gå till anfall. Då är han farlig. Pappa tiger eller mamma tiger visar hur man gör. Då kan han skaffa mat själv. Och vilka stora tassar han har. Precis som katten kan tigern dra in och sticka ut sina klor. Tigerns svans är rak och fin. Och så håller de balansen med svansen. De viftar inte fram och tillbaka så här inte. Vet ni, tigern är stolt över sin svans. Tigern smyger tyst på sitt byte. Nej, nu orkar jag inte mera. Jag är en trött gammal tiger. Det är nog bäst jag går och sover. Vila mig en liten stund.
Just look at how confident those young deaf children are. Their language and grammar blossoming without inhibitions. Good to see young deaf children so at ease presenting their own programme. Superb role models. Talking of role models, take a look at this. Silent Network, the disability television channel in the United States, pays its tribute to T.J. O'Rourke.
Before O'Rourke lost his hearing at the age of 10, he sang on the Major Bowes Radio Amateur Hour. Like most deafened preteens, he adjusted slowly and became an active student at the California School for the Deaf at Berkeley. As a senior, TJ yearned to be a printer and writer. With his diploma in hand, TJ bade farewell to his mother and twin brother Dennis, looking for new challenges towards the eastern horizon. TJ enrolled at Gallaudet University. He became involved with student organizations, the campus newspaper, the yearbook, and other literary activities which proved him to be a versatile writer and strong leader. Upon graduation in 1953, TJ taught at the North Dakota School for the Deaf, as well as the North Carolina School for the Deaf, where he excelled as a sports writer and coach. He made a pivotal decision to move to Washington, D.C. While teaching at Gallaudet, he began his long rise to prominence. When he was hired by Frederick Schreiber, the executive director of the National Association of the Deaf, to be director of the NAD Communicative Skills Program.
Fred was my mentor. And I say mentor because he was the person who allowed me the freedom to grow.
While working for the NAD, TJ authored NAD's best-selling sign language book entitled A Basic Course in Manual Communication. Through sales from that book, NAD prospered both financially and politically. TJ left NAD to venture on his own as an entrepreneur. In his work as an advocate for the rights of individuals with disabilities, he spearheaded the national protest against the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare. His eloquence led to laws and policy changes which had a tremendous
impact on the lives of deaf and hearing people.
His reputation spread quickly, and TJ became internationally known as his publishing company, which offers fine books and videotapes about sign language and other deafness-related topics, grew considerably. He co-authored the bestseller, A Basic Course in American Sign Language.
Printing book sees 25 printings narrated belongs in what you call the bestseller category.
TJ's love for art led him to produce an historical television program about Douglas Tilden, a famous deaf sculptor.
I've always maintained an interest in music.
Developing a musical play was his lifelong dream. He wrote several songs for his unfinished project.
What an unusual film. It raises the interesting question of just how we all preserve our deaf heritage. All too often we forget to acknowledge the exceptional contribution many deaf people make to our culture and heritage. Could this type of film be a way of preserving our culture? Let us know what you think of this style of tribute. The word culture keeps popping up in our lives. But just what is deaf culture? Does it mean deaf people travelling miles to meet other deaf people? Some deaf people go so far as to arrange holidays with an all deaf group. Do you remember the Dimmocks tours? We've heard that in America, a group of deaf people chartered a whole cruise ship for a holiday. The Danish Deaf didn't do that. They hired a coach to take them on a winter holiday. The destination? Sir Chevalier in France. The reason? To learn to ski.
Det er lørdag, men der er godt nok ikke noget sne her. Der er sikkert noget deroppe. Ja, nu er vi her i Frankrig i Sir Chevalier, og vi er med for første gang på ski. Vi skal op og stå på ski nu. Vi skal på skiskole. Det bliver spændende. Om vi kan klare det, det ved jeg ikke, men vi må prøve at se. Jeg falder her meget ofte. Det er virkelig svært. Nå, men jeg prøver at gøre det bedre her de kommende dage.
All that skiing. Oh, wish I was there. Maastricht. Meteorol, the ERM, the EMU. It's a real job trying to figure out what's happening in Europe these days, isn't it? But you can't escape it. Not even at the British Deaf Association Congress at the most British of resorts, Blackpool. Here's a report from Clive. Hello, I'm here from Denmark and I've come for the conference about child abuse, fostering and adoption and HIV and AIDS. I give papers about HIV and AIDS in Denmark, so I want to look more into this field. And in the future, I'd like to do some research around Europe.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, as President of the ECRS, it is a great pleasure and a great honor to welcome all of you to this European Conference on Human Rights for Deaf People. Here at BDA Congress in Blackpool, Europe and human rights is the main theme. Opening the European Congress is Knut Sondergaard, President of the ECRS, which is the European Community Regional Secretariat. The ECRS represents the national associations of the deaf within the 12 member states of the EC. Luxembourg doesn't have a national association for the deaf. Two delegates from each of the 11 countries, along with a sign language interpreter, are here, and they'll be discussing crucial issues facing the deaf community. It was amazing to see how technology added to the flow and exchange of information, what with the large screens, TV monitors, Palantype for the subtitles, and foreign language translators working from English to French and vice versa. Everyone was able to participate on equal terms. The communication needs of deaf people vary, and the added dimension of having 11 different sign languages certainly added to the conference. It's something few people think about, but it does happen to deaf children. When statistics on child abuse are published, the numbers certainly include deaf children. and I believe they are at greater risk than non-deaf children in the same situation. Unfortunately, dramatic cases are known of deaf people who, on the one hand, are unable to complain about child or sexual abuse, and on the other hand, have their complaints ignored.
The session on child abuse was heartbreaking for me. I'm a social worker, so I see this sort of thing all too often. It was also interesting, but really painful. To think that parents can abuse their own children, it just breaks my heart.
The first speaker in the plenary session on child abuse was Sharon Ridgway, research psychologist at Whittingham Hospital, Preston.
The prevention of the abuse of deaf children is our responsibility. It is an issue for all individuals and communities. Asian, black, white, disabled, minority and religious groups. It is everybody's responsibility.
Now, today in your paper you made a lot of very strong points. But I'd like you to clarify one thing. What exactly do you mean by this word responsibility? Well, you did say that we are all responsible. Can you explain?
Well, most people think of abuse as something happening out there, and it's nothing to do with us, so we don't worry about it. But of course that's not the case. It's the responsibility of all of us, those of us who understand deaf children, to be responsible for giving them information, training, counselling and total support.
Okay. Now, you mentioned communication being part of child abuse. Can you explain what you meant by that?
Language deprivation. Now, that can mean poor psychological and social development, a negative self-image, feelings of rejection, no sense of identity and lack of confidence. The key factor in all these is language deprivation.
Well, can we look at a specific example? Let's say I'm a hearing parent of a deaf child, and I, as a parent, refuse to give sign language to that child. Do you see that as abuse?
Yes, it is a form of emotional abuse, definitely, because you're denying that child the right to a language. The freedom to communicate totally just isn't there.
As well as child abuse, there were papers and workshops on fostering and adoption and AIDS.
Well, I certainly had my eyes open to the importance of AIDS awareness. In Greece, there's no information available, so people know absolutely nothing about it. We came here wondering what AIDS was all about. It's amazing how much we've learned, and that's been very important. I was stunned to see deaf people speaking about AIDS, but they helped to make us more aware.
Now, here at the conference, we've had meetings, we've had people giving papers and expressing their thoughts and feelings and views. And then, you know, we're going to work on that. Well, what exactly is going to happen next? Well, we've all listened to the two main speakers, and we've broken down into workshops, and we're carrying on our discussions now. Then, when we finish that, we'll get professionals in the field to give their opinions as speakers and participants. And then all of this will be presented to the ECRS for discussion in a paper. And then hopefully this will be adopted as ECRS policy.
Related to that at the same time. And they're both an area that I work. A lot of work I do.
The resolutions, some of which related to deaf children's access to language, were now being put to the conference for approval. One of the most positive things that has happened over the years is the way that deaf people are more prepared to stand up and make a point, especially at large conferences. This one was no exception, with the delegate from France disputing a point raised from the conference resolution on fostering and adoption.
They come into contact with regret. Could you say that? In the world there is evidence that deaf children, that if they get access through a spoken language and sign language and a written language, it can be confusing for deaf children. The first language should be sign language, and then you have a written form, but they have to be skilled in a written form, and speech is the third form, if you like. But it should be standard throughout Europe.
Well, during the Congress we've had lots of discussions and resolutions are being made. But toward the end of this discussion, we were talking about the policy that we should have for deaf children that should be accepted. And most of it was fine, but there was one point I really disagreed with. They were saying that we should start with sign language and then oral and written language should go together with the sign language, and I disagree with that. I think we should have sign language first with written language, and then afterwards have oral language if children can cope with it and want to take it up. That would be fine. I mean, this really is a problem. In France, I think we're fairly clear and we're getting on with it, but I'm not sure the rest of Europe are as clear as we are. I think it's still a problem that needs more discussion.
One of the many positive things that came from the European Congress was the move away from "it's your responsibility" to one of "it's my responsibility." The workshops were a great opportunity to share experience, and many delegates left Blackpool with the feeling, "it's my responsibility to make things happen." Well, we've ended our world trip in Blackpool. Hope you've enjoyed it. Next week we stay in Britain, and Clive will be reporting on the new Deaf Visual Arts Forum, and Charles Hampton will be signing a song especially for See Hear viewers. So do join Clive next week. Bye-bye.